Hello, and welcome to another episode of Geography Girl. Excuse the state of my hair today, I just washed it and it's very fluffy. I'm very excited to have this episode today because I'm sharing a story that is right at the cornerstone of Geography Girl's very existence. I'm so sorry, I can't stop looking at the absolute state of my hair. So today what I'm going to be talking about is the story of bone music, which is otherwise known as music on ribs. And I actually came across this originally in a Guardian article, and the picture initially just really drew me in, and the story, it really lit a fire in me that was like, oh my gosh, there's so many stories like this that I want to uncover and I want to find and I want to share with other people, because I just find it, I don't know what it is about this that I find so fascinating. I think because it's cool, it's Soviet, it's rebellious, and it's just also so unique. I think if I had come across one of these records, I would actually have just passed away then and there. Basically, this is a story of in Soviet Russia where music was banned. Music lovers would make bootleg records and print them onto medical x-rays. So this emerged in the Soviet Union in the 1950s. And this was a time where the state really censored all types of music, but particularly jazz and rock and roll that was coming out of America, especially Latin music, because they believed that would really bring out the worst in people, young people's most dastardly desires. But just with anything, the more you try and push something underground, the more people are going to want it. So during the Cold War, the Iron Curtain was up and the doors to the West were firmly shut. And the state was really trying to seal its people off from Western influence. And yeah, like I said, when you make something illegal, you're only just going to increase the attraction towards it. So people were really compelled by what they were hearing coming out of Western music. And there was a really strong appetite for people like Elvis Presley and Ella Fitzgerald and even the Beatles. So all of these underground economies sprung up to smuggle this music into the Soviet Union. And here is where it gets genius, because vinyls were incredibly expensive, but hospital waste was free and it was everywhere. So this is where people started using old x-rays as a vinyl to print their bootlegged music onto. The story begins in St. Petersburg in around 1946. A man returned from the war with a recording lathe, which is a machine that cuts grooves into plastic. And people looked at this and thought it was a really nifty machine, so they went away and they built their own. A music historian, Stephen Coates, explains that they would start off with a square or a rectangular x-ray, then probably put a plate on it and draw around it with a pen and then cut it out by hand. So they would make these 7-inch discs that do look quite scrappy, and what I love about this even more is the hole in the middle would usually be burnt into it by a cigarette. And the result of this is just so ghostly and haunting. You'd literally have skeletons spinning on turntables. I think this just adds to the allure of all of this. This is forbidden music that just looks so illicit. So it's no wonder that this was called bone music or nakosti in Russian. And it actually wasn't ridiculously expensive. You could pick one up for about a ruble. And just like any black market, dealers would sell them in alleyways, on street corners and in parks. And how it would work is you'd go to your dealer and you'd ask for them to make you a track. And if they didn't have the track, they would just sometimes go away and just kind of make it up and then sell it to you. And because most people didn't really know what they were listening to, they'd just be oh yeah, that was great. But they didn't even get what they had asked for, or even close to what they had asked for, because the person had just scratched it from memory. So not only are you terribly pirating this music, it was also highly illegal, and if you were caught making or selling them, you could lose everything and you could end up in prison. And I think a Soviet prison is probably the last place you want to end up in. So it wasn't just jazz, it was rock and roll, mambo, tango, and Latin American beats. So names like Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, John Coltrane, Miles Davis and Chet Baker, which was exactly the kind of decadence that the government thought would corrupt Soviet youth. I mean, despite all of this, the sound quality was awful. They usually span at about 78 RPM and lasted maybe 5 to 10 plays before they became unusable. But for these people that were so starved of music. Like, this was kind of enough because it's all they could get their hands on at the time. By the 1950s, the authority had kind of said enough is enough and started to crack down on bone music. It became linked with stylyagi, which is Soviet youth culture, which is where like Soviet hipsters would bring in bright Western clothes and dance to jazz and like mock conformity. In 1958, there was a new law which banned homemade recordings outright, and the officials called it a criminally harmful trend. Because to this day, jazz and like rock and roll and Latin music wasn't art, it was a cultural disease that would like corrupt their youth. So this phenomena lasted throughout the 1950s and the 1960s, but then it was replaced by tape recordings, easier to copy, and they did last longer and they did sound so much better. So bone music slowly faded away. But those years did leave their mark, and the bone music becomes like a very important symbol of resistance because they were like dangerous little plastic tokens of freedom. And today you can find them in museums, and the original article I read about, the person found it in a flea market somewhere in the Soviet Union, which just must have been so mind-blowing if you'd never seen one of these before. So yeah, that's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give us a like and subscribe for more. I bring out new episodes every Tuesday. Okay, goodbye.